Yeah, I did change, and I'm really glad I changed.
This one's wife. Look there, not here. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Deflection is a staple manipulation utilized by the narcissist in order to nullify a threat to control. It can also come under the heading of whataboutism. Whataboutism is often rolled out by narcissists, but is also used by people who aren't narcissists as a consequence of the fact that they lack the forensic intellectual ability to sustain an argument, and therefore they bleat on about something that is irrelevant. You will be debating a particular point with them, and they decide to bring in a different comparison which is completely irrelevant to the argument. You know that they have no defence to your argument, and therefore they have to engage in whataboutism. We see this quite a lot when it comes to this one's wife, where you point out to the sugars about the behaviour of this one's wife by going to the evidence, of which there is a lot. Invariably they'll turn around and start saying something about the Princess of Wales. But we're not talking about the Princess of Wales. We're talking about the evidence that demonstrates the narcissism of this one's wife. The Princess of Wales is irrelevant with regard to that, other than where there's been an interaction between her and this one's wife, which further demonstrates the narcissism of this one's wife. But Catherine's name is invariably thrown into the ring by them, because they have an inability to defend this one's wife, owing to their low cognitive function, and the fact that they don't like the Princess of Wales. So what they need to do is try and sidestep the thrust of your argument about this one's wife, whilst continuing to smear Catherine. They also fail to recognise the hypocrisy of what they are doing. They will berate you for criticising this one's wife, and then, rather than meet your argument to realise why that criticism is legitimate, they will then engage in their own illegitimate criticism of the Princess of Wales. Deflection is important to the narcissist because it is important to naturally nullify that threat to control. And as part of that deflection, it is the case that a narcissist will want you to look elsewhere rather than at them. You can describe it as deflection, you can describe it as distraction, you can describe it as misinformation, you could describe it as misdirection, and even whataboutism. But whatever name you give to it, when utilised by the narcissist, it's done to nullify a threat to control. And we have a classic example of this, which has been done through a coterie member. Bryony Gordon is pro-Sussex, and she writes for the Daily Mail, explaining as follows. The first time I met this one's wife, she gave me a big old bear hug, physical assertion of control, the kind that makes you feel at ease. Pausing there, I have to say that in many instances where I have seen people on the receiving end of a hug from this one's wife, they don't look at ease at all. But that's Bryony Gordon's opinion, and if she wishes to put that forward, she's entitled to do so. Bryony Gordon explains, I was at the 2018 Royal Foundation event to chair a panel on Heads Together, the mental health campaign I had worked on with the young royals. And this one's wife's down-to-earth demeanour worked like a charm, removing all the anxiety felt by myself and the other attendees. How do you know? Did you ask them all? Most of whom were normal people who had worked tirelessly to fundraise for the charities the foundation supported. I've got to know this one's wife in the years since that first hug. We've gone for lunch, writes Bryony, hung out at charitable projects together, and I've visited her home in Frogmore Cottage and Monty Shit Show. Thus, she's demonstrating that she's had repeated involvements with this one's wife, and that would place her within the coterie of the narcissist. Each time we meet, or exchange texts about life, I wonder what it says about the world that she could be so vilified and trolled, while other members of the royal family seem to have been given a free pass to behave as badly as they want. Well, pausing there, it's quite clear that Bryony Gordon either recognises why this one's wife is criticised, but chooses to ignore it, or she's incapable of recognising it as a consequence of the brainwashed state that she's in as a coterie member. Again, we immediately find the deflection. I don't understand why she's been trolled, And hang on a second, let's talk about other members of the royal family that have been given a free pass. Really? Have they? Has Prince Andrew been given a free pass? He's no longer a working royal. He was stripped of patronages and titles. He basically has to sit around all day in a darkened room watching television. He has become very much the black sheep of the family. People don't want anything to do with him. Okay, he hasn't received any criminal sanction because no criminal charges were brought. He evaded a civil case by settling it, which is something that he's perfectly entitled to do. But to suggest that he's been given a free pass to behave as badly as he wants, well, perhaps historically he's done as he's wanted to, but it's certainly caught up with him. And of course, this is who Bryony Gordon is deflecting with in relation to this one's wife's behaviour on behalf of this one's wife as a coterie member. She continues by writing, "Enter one Prince Andrew, a man with morals so loose that according to a new book, even the loathsome Jeffrey Epstein described him as a perverted animal. It is claimed that the late paedophile financier said of the British prince, 'He likes to engage in stuff that's even kinky to me, and I'm the king of kink.' Like many, I've been gripped by the extracts from Andrew Lowney's book, serialised this week in the Daily Mail. With each sordid allegation, I become more and more furious that so little was done to help this one's wife as she struggled with life in the royal family, while so much was done to protect Prince Andrew." But again, that doesn't ring true, and this smacks of a propaganda piece being pumped out on behalf of this one's wife, utilising what is being stated about Andrew as an attempt to say, look at him, don't look at what I've been doing, look at him. Take the heat off me. What Andrew did do, of course, as a consequence of the disgrace that was directed towards him, was keep a low profile, and I've explained in parts passim why he engaged in such activity. This one's wife engaged in poor behaviour, which was documented. But what did she do? Did she go to the United States and keep a low profile? No, she doubled down. She did the Oprah interview. She's never shut up since. She's never stopped throwing brickbats from across the ocean towards the royal family. And in the circumstances, to try and compare Prince Andrew with this one's wife is an ill-founded comparison. It's also the case that much was done to help her. She was welcomed with open arms into the royal family. Millions were spent on her wedding. She was given an entire staff. Other members of the royal family were tasked with assisting her, but she didn't want to know. And therefore, the suggestion that she wasn't given any help is disingenuous, and also to try and triangulate the readership with Prince Andrew is similarly odious. Again, she returns to the issue of Andrew by explaining that his alleged appalling behaviour long predates the stripping of his military titles and royal duties in 2022, when he settled out of court with Virginia Giuffre. As if that stomach-churning association with Epstein was not enough, now, thanks to Lowney, we have been treated to the full scope of the royal's alleged conduct. Not only did he insist on everyone acknowledging his presence when he walked into a room, he is said to have had an affair with a member of the royal household, while a nanny apparently left because he had made unwelcome advances. Again, look at Andrew, not at this one's wife. Nothing to see there. She then goes on with further information taken from the book about the number of people that the Duchess of York slept with during his first year of marriage to the Duchess of York, the fact of talking to a sports massage therapist about anal sex, insisting on being naked during their treatments, and talking about his juvenile behaviours. He talks about how he apparently called a member of staff a fucking imbecile. And she lists this litany of behaviour. But she states somehow Andrew got away with it for decades, while this one's wife was branded Duchess Difficult the moment she so much as asked the Queen if she might be able to borrow a tiara for her wedding. Now, it is clear that much of Andrew's behaviour wasn't picked up upon, and that was swept under the carpet. The difference was that with this one's wife, she sought to court attention, whereas Andrew didn't. Yes, his narcissism caused him to want attention within those that were proximate to him, but he didn't go running to the press with tales of woe. He didn't, for instance, walk up and down outside the Daily Mail offices wanting to get pictured in the way that this one's wife did. Furthermore, he still remained loyal to the royal family, and whilst he was engaging in unpleasant behaviours, he wasn't spending his time smearing the very institution that he was a part of. This one's wife did, and therefore what she failed to do was recognise that the institution would have protected her had she kept her head down, but she didn't, because unlike the likes of Andrew, whose narcissism harnessed the institution that he was born into, and the way that other narcissists within the British royal family and other royal families elsewhere, which I've spoken about separately, have recognised through their narcissism that they are better off harnessing the institution to pursue the prime aims, this one's wife's narcissism thought that she was even bigger than the institution and she could change it. Thus, she exposed herself, exposed her behaviours, and therefore received the criticisms that she did. Instead, this member of the coterie has been dispatched to utilise the disclosures about Prince Andrew to say, you should all be complaining about him, and look how unfair it is because he got away with these things for years and this one's wife didn't. Don't be looking at her, you should be looking at him. Don't be concerned about her, you should be up in arms about what he has done. Many people are. But the fact is that people can be critical of both of these individuals. But as ever, with this one's wife, there's the utilisation of the need to deflect from her poor behaviour by pointing at somebody else. That is not the appropriate way. But for a narcissist, this is something that would regularly be done because it's necessary for her to nullify that threat to control. And she does so with this arse-kissing article from Bryony Gordon that appears in the Daily Mail, as clearly it's an attempt to say, look over there, but not at me, when it comes to her transgressions and poor behaviour. A typical move of deflection of the narcissist. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.